You're listening to the Powers Podcast with your host, Noah Powers.
What is up, you guys? You are listening to the Powers Podcast, episode 4. I'm your host, Noah freaking Powers. And I just want to say thank you for joining me today, guys. It's Wednesday. Wednesday is one of my chill days. So I just wanted to put on the headset and talk about whatever came to mind. And I actually thought of something before I started recording that I wanted to talk about, and that is my love of professional wrestling. And not just the fact that I love it, but how my love of professional wrestling has evolved from when I was a little kid to now. I just want to start this off by saying I've had, people tell me in the past, like, grow up, like, wrestling's for little kids, that kind of thing. And if you go into it with the mindset that you would with a UFC fight or a boxing match, then yes, you're going to think it's childish. But you have to understand that professional wrestling is essentially a soap opera. Yes, it's scripted. Yes, the winners are predetermined. But the wrestlers are out there telling a story. And instead of telling it with their voices, they're telling it with their bodies. They're out there putting on a show to tell a story. There are storylines that you have to follow, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that people looking in from the outside don't understand, so they don't get it. But I want to explain why I love wrestling so much, how it all started, and how I got to where I am now. So I started watching professional wrestling probably since I was born. I've been watching wrestling. I was actually, my sister and I, we were flipping through old photo albums, and I came across a picture of me and my mom sitting on the floor. This had to have been when I was like 3 years old, but I'm sitting there and I'm laying on the floor in front of the TV with my head propped up on my hand, and on TV is an episode of Monday Night Raw. Now, I saw this and I was like, oh wow, I don't even remember this. So I've been watching wrestling since before I can remember. And it was really nice to see that, because that helps me, get an understanding of why I love it so much, and why I enjoy it. Now, I didn't actually gain an understanding of it until probably somewhere in the 04-05 range, somewhere in those years. I really started to enjoy it. And that is what is known as the Ruthless Aggression Era. You hear everyone talk about the Attitude Era. Well, I was born in the Attitude Era, so I don't really remember the Attitude Era. I remember the Ruthless Aggression Era. And the Ruthless Aggression Era is where you saw, John Cena and Randy Orton and people like that. That's where they made their debut. It was in the Ruthless Aggression Era. So I grew up watching, John Cena and Randy Orton and all those guys. And so in my opinion, the Ruthless Aggression Era, it was better than the Attitude Era. Mainly because I wasn't old enough to understand what was going on. I watched it, but I didn't understand storylines and all that. Now, when you're a little kid and you're watching wrestling, you're not watching it for the storyline, for the most part. Like, there's a story there, but you don't really comprehend what goes into the story and that kind of thing. You watch it mainly because it looks cool, and you cheer for the good guys and you boo the bad guys and that kind of thing. But once you start to get a little bit older, if you keep on loving it and you keep on watching it, then you really start to gain an understanding of, okay, well, this was written like this, so this happened. You see what I'm saying? Like, when you're younger, you don't really understand the story, what goes into the story aspect of it. But as you get older, you start to understand, okay, well, they're not really hitting each other, but they're telling a story out there, so it's entertaining. And, people tell me all the time, like, that's fake, right? And I'm like, yes, I know it's fake. Okay, fake was a bad word. I personally don't like the word fake to describe it, because it is very much real. People really do get injured, so it is very much real. And I feel like the word fake is disrespectful to people who wrestle professionally. So scripted would be a better word. So, hey, that's scripted, right? I'm like, yes, I know it's scripted. Yes, I know the winners are predetermined. But if you don't watch it and gain an understanding of the storyline, then it's going to look stupid to you. So, I mean, if you're not going to take the time to understand it and know what's going on, then don't insult it, Um, so, probably um, one of the biggest stars I watched growing up was Kurt Angle. Now, he debuted in the Attitude Era, so that's where he really started to gain his stardom. But he was still wrestling in the Ruthless Aggression Era, and I got to watch him wrestle some. And he's a guy that was very, very good at his craft. He knew what he was doing out there in the ring, and you could tell. He was a very, very talented technical wrestler. He's an Olympic gold medalist, won a gold medal in wrestling in the 1996 Olympics, and probably one of the biggest experiences I've had with a professional wrestler was with Kurt Angle. So, for those of you who know me, I write specifically about sports. So I did an article about Kurt Angle, and I posted a link to it on Twitter, and I tagged him in it, and I said, Mr. Angle, it would mean the world to me if you would give this a read. And he actually took the time to read it, and he messaged me on Twitter, and he thanked me for it, and so we had a little bit of a conversation there. So that was probably the biggest experience I've had with a professional wrestler, and that's part of the reason I love it so much, because you've got people like Kurt Angle who care about the fans and appreciate the fans, and you've got people like Kurt who understand what it's like to be a fan, because you've got wrestlers out there that do it for the money and that kind of thing, but you can really tell when a wrestler goes from being a fan to being a wrestler. And you can tell when a wrestler, even though they're out there doing it, they're still a fan. And John Cena is a huge example of that. He grew up a wrestling fan. He would watch wrestling with his family and that kind of thing. And then he got into the industry. But he's still a fan. And you can tell because of the passion that they have for it and that kind of thing. And Kurt Angle is one of those guys. Kurt Angle, I don't know how big of a fan he was before he started wrestling, but as he got into wrestling, you could tell the passion for it that he had. And that's why he's one of the biggest influences on my love for professional wrestling. And to be able to have, even just a little conversation with him, it meant the world to me, and I really appreciated it. Yeah, guys. Professional wrestling it's a huge part of my life and has been since I've been born, pretty much. If I've had a bad day or something, I can sit down and watch wrestling, and it's sort of an outlet for me and sort of an escape from the stresses of life and that kind of thing. And wrestling means the world to me, and I don't know what I would do without it. And I'm sorry for rambling on through this whole thing, but I really just wanted to talk about something I love, and I know there are millions of people in this world that love it too, and they have the same passion and love for it that I do. So I just wanted to put my story out there and tell everyone why I love it so much and that kind of thing. But yeah, guys, it looks like we're almost out of time. I know this podcast wasn't the longest, and it was mainly just me rambling on, but I want to thank everyone who stayed till the end and gave it a listen. If you liked it, hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and if you really liked it, go down in the comments and tell me how much you liked it. And if there are any wrestling fans watching this, comment below. Tell me how you started watching wrestling and how much you love it and that kind of thing. But yeah, guys, we're out of time. That does it for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and have a good one.